Welcome, everyone. Good morning to those who are gathered here in the sanctuary on Rugby Road and to all who are joining us online via Zoom. As we come together for worship, we begin with a musical prelude from Scott. Thank you, Scott. Good morning and welcome to the UU congregation of Charlottesville. My name is Tori Goodloe and I am delighted to be serving as your worship weaver. It is wonderful to be gathered for worship this morning, both online and here on Rugby Road. This sanctuary was built over 70 years ago on land that was the homeland of the Monacan people and that was once cared for by enslaved people from Africa and their descendants. We honor all who dwelt here and all in our congregation whose lives led to this moment of our gathering as a community of memory and hope. I invite you now to take a moment to greet others who are with us in worship this morning. Those online can unmute and say hello to one another, and those of us here in the sanctuary or social hall are welcome to greet your neighbors, especially those you may not know.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi Sally, hi Rosalie, hi Mary, hi Kate.
Hi.
And everyone else.
Hello.
Hi, Gail.
Hi,
Hi.
everyone.
Hi there. Hi, Steve.
Doing well, doing very well.
Good morning.
Hey, Rosalie.
How are you, Sally?
I'm muted, honey.
I'm afraid I'm gonna mute all again.
Okay.
invite you to join us for fellowship after the service in the social hall. Feel free to use one of our red coffee mugs, which are for newcomers to our congregation. In addition to the sanctuary, seating is available in the social hall where there is a live stream of the service. Everyone is welcome in the sanctuary, but if you need a roomier space, the social hall can be a good option. Many thanks to all the folks helping us share worship, both here and online. Our on-site greeters, ushers, and hospitality and logistics team, and special thanks to our AV tech, Rachel Buckland, supporting the dual platform worship both online and here on Rugby Road. Our thanks to music director Scott Deveaux for sharing his musical gifts, and I'm pleased to be weaving worship this morning with Rev Tim. Now here to greet you from your Board of Trustees is Haley Owens.
Thank you, Tori. Okay. Wow, good morning, everybody. Thank you for choosing to be in here with us instead of being outside in this gorgeous day. And to those who are on Zoom, I hope you're Zooming from the outdoors. It is just so beautiful. So I wanted to offer, as part of my board welcome, lift up some of the amazing things that our congregation has been passionately working on over the past month and a half. The first one is, of course, our mission and visioning conversations. Raise your hand if you participated. Okay, that looks like about 50%. That's awesome. We had about 120 people participate in these conversations over the past month. And I just am so grateful. They were rich, they were active. And I just want to give a big shout out to Janine Braithwaite, Aksha Carrier, Pam McIntyre, Reverend Tim, Brett Gastinger, and Chris Little for this amazing effort. Big round of applause. Go team. So they've got all these notes and they're going to be writing up a summary and trying to synthesize everything. So stay tuned, but things are moving. It's awesome. And then, of course, some of you have heard me talk about Impact, our interfaith justice ministry. I don't know if you've heard about it yet, but we just had our big action on Tuesday, and I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces that were there. About 60 of us showed up in person as you use, more online, and then 900 people from all over our community showed up to push for progress on affordable housing, childcare, and sustainable transit for our community. We got progress. So big round of applause for that too. So go team, awesome. Okay, I'm just here for the applause. No, here for it all. But Pledge Drive is our other big one from this month, and there's been so many people working on this. We're now in our last 5 days. That's a big deal. I think it's about 450,000 is where we're at in terms of pledging. You can see on our big heart what that real total number is today. But the askers are asking. So if you get a phone call or a text, please take some time to respond to that person and let them know what you're willing to pledge. And then, of course, after in the social hall today, I'll be around. I think maybe Bob, certainly maybe Kay. We're available to ask questions and can help you make that pledge then and there. So thank you all so much, and it's been a really great month together.
Thank you, Haley. Here are our announcements this morning. Today, we welcome a new artist and their work to our sanctuary, Lavon Yance. Lavon, would you please stand? Lavon will join us for coffee hour in the social hall, so please enjoy her work and say hello after the service. Our congregation's youth are selling attractions coupon books in the social hall to support their upcoming service trip to repair homes in Appalachia through the Appalachian Service Project. The books cost $25. For more information, speak with Margaret Gorman in the social hall. If you are new to the UU Congregation of Charlottesville, join us next Sunday after the service for our monthly newcomer circle. Rev Tim and several lay leaders will be there to talk about Unitarian Universalism and UUCville. The newcomer circle only lasts 30 minutes and you don't need to pre-register or sign up. Simply join us after the service next Sunday. Please join us for coffee hour after the service, and now let us settle ourselves for worship.
Good morning, everyone. Good to see you. Thank you for, I agree with, was it Haley that said, thanks for coming today because it's such a beautiful day? I agree with that, so much appreciated. So our call to worship this morning comes from Lindsay Bates. Let us open our minds to the challenge of reason. Open our hearts to the healing of love. Open our lives to the calling of conscience, and open our souls to the comfort of joy. Astonished by the miracle of life, grateful for the gift of companionship, confident in the power of living faith. Come, let us worship together.
As Mary and Sam Anderson lights the flame of our chalice this morning, please join me in saying our unison chalice lighting words. We gather this hour as people of faith with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together. We light this chalice to celebrate
Unitarian Universalism. This is the Church of the Open Minds. This is the Church of the Helping Hands. This is the Church of Loving Hearts. Thank you all for that. Thank you, Tori. Thank you, Sam and Mary. So for our opening song this morning, we're gonna enjoy Peter Mayer's Holy Now. It'll be on video. It's 5 minutes long, so why don't we remain seated? You can listen to this song, but the words will be on the screen. If you would like to sing along, that would be wonderful. I'm sure many of you are familiar with Peter Mayer's well-known UU hymn, Blue Boat Home. And this is another one of his really wonderful, wonderful songs. So you can remain seated and let's join in enjoying and singing Holy Now.
When I was a boy, each week on Sunday we would go to church and pay attention to the priest. He would read the holy word and consecrate the holy bread, and everyone would kneel and bow. Today the only difference is everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. And when I was in Sunday school, we would learn about the time Moses split the sea in two, and Jesus made the water wine. And I remember feeling sad, miracles don't happen still. Now I can't keep track, 'cause everything's a miracle. Everything's a miracle. Wine from water is not so small, but an even better magic trick is that anything is here at home. So the challenging thing becomes not to look for miracles, but finding where there isn't one. When holy water was rare at best, it barely wet my fingertips, but now I have to hold my breath like I'm swimming in a sea of it. It used to be a world half there, heaven's second-rate hand-me-down, but I walk it with a reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now. Child's face, say it's not a testament, that'd be very hard to say. See another new morning come, say it's not a sacrament, I tell you that it can't be done. This morning outside I stood, I saw a little red-winged bird shining like a burning bush and singing like a scripture verse. It made me want to bow my head. I remember when church let out, how things have changed since then. Everything is holy now. It used to be a world half there, heaven's second-rate hand-me-down, but I walk it with a reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now.
Well, I hope you all enjoyed that as much as I did. I feel like after watching that, I could just go, amen, let's have coffee, huh? Wow, that's just so wonderful, so wonderful. So, before our children go off to their classes, I'd like to invite them to come forward. The young at heart, parents, families, heck, the whole congregation. Just come on up, you know? Have a seat. Have a seat, have a seat. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good morning. It's nice to see you all. So I have a really big question to ask you this morning. So when I say the word God, what comes to mind? Yes, Karina.
Jesus is Father.
Jesus is Father, okay. Anybody else? What comes to mind? Nobody else? Yes?
Everything.
Everything. Nice. Okay, we have Jesus, Father, everything. Yes?
A higher power.
A higher power. Nice, nice. Absolutely. Anybody else? No, it's a big topic. I know. Yeah, it's a big topic. I have to say, I've thought about this topic a lot. Go ahead, Karina.
The Holy Spirit and the first God.
Holy Spirit and the first God. Very interesting. So, oh, yeah, go ahead.
An unimaginably powerful entity that we cannot understand.
Wow. Let me see if I got that right. An unimaginably powerful entity that we can't understand. Man, I need my pen to write that one down. That's great. Thank you so much. So those are all wonderful, wonderful answers. And you know what I love about them is that each of your answers, each of your images, they're all a little different. And that's really great. And in Unitarian Universalism, there are lots of different images and ways of understanding God or the divine or however you want to name it. But I wanted to take a minute or two. We're coming up on the end of Women's History Month, where we take time to talk about really amazing women today and from the past. And one of my favorite things to do in Women's History Month is to share with our children a little bit about a famous UU woman who was really something else. And the woman I want to tell you about today is this woman. You're going to see a slide of her here. Her name is Mary Livermore. On the left is a picture of what Mary Livermore looked like when she was an adult. On the right is a picture I'm going to tell you about in just a minute, where she's looking kind of hesitant and a little afraid to walk into a building. So Mary Livermore lived in the 1800s, and her parents, her family was very religious. They went to church every Sunday. The church they went to, when she heard about God at church, it bothered her, not because she didn't believe in God, but because the God that was talked about in the church that she grew up in was kind of scary. She heard about a God that could get mad sometimes, a God that sometimes could punish you if you did something wrong, and it was just really watching you to make sure you did everything right. And in her heart, in young Mary's heart, that just made her afraid. It didn't feel right. She thought that God was more about love than being angry or stern or strict. So she believed that God is love. And then, but as she grew into a young adulthood, she quit going to church because she just she couldn't hear about that God anymore. It made her upset. It just didn't feel right. Then one night, when she was teaching in a small town in Massachusetts, it was Christmas Eve, and she was out walking, and she had always gone to church on Christmas Eve, but she didn't because she just didn't feel right. She was afraid about what she might hear. And she walked by this really small church, that's the small church, and she heard people singing, and they sounded so happy and so joyful. Now she thought, should I go in? Who are these people? She didn't really know anything about this church. She didn't know what religion they were. This is a picture that was drawn that's in her life story, the book that's her life story that she wrote. But she went in. And when she got in, everybody was just so warm and welcoming, and they told her to come in and sit down and to join them in singing. And the songs they were singing and the words they were speaking were all about a God that was completely different than the God she had learned about growing up. This was a God who loved everybody, a God who loved everybody. And this church that she went into was a Universalist church. And Mary Livermore, from that day on, she became a Universalist. Today, we would, of course, call her a Unitarian Universalist. So she was part of our religion, and she was so committed to that message, which is the message of universalism, that God is all about love. That's who God is in the Universalist side of our religion. So listen, thank you very much for sharing your ideas and thoughts about God. It was very interesting. I should have had my notebook with me so I could have taken notes, but you guys are amazing, and it's just so wonderful to get a chance to talk with you on Sunday mornings. So why don't you guys head on off to your classes now, and can we join together in singing our children out?
As we leave this friendly place, forgive every face. May the kindest ways return, light our hearts to be there. As we leave this friendly place, forgive light to every face. May the kindest ways return.
So as Haley told us earlier, we are coming down the home stretch of our pledge drive, our stewardship campaign. We're doing exceptionally well. We still have a ways to go to get to our goal. So in order to inspire you, if you haven't pledged yet, no pressure, Chris and Tori. We're going to invite Chris to come up and join his spouse, Tori, and they're going to share a little bit with you about why they support this congregation.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Tori already has a speaking workload today, so she asked me to take the lion's share of this particular topic. I jotted down a few notes in preparation, and while I was sitting there, Kieran added to the notes. So I'm not sure what this is, except for maybe add a bit of fun to this. But briefly, I want to share a metaphor that I shared previously on this exact topic, because it was a very meaningful one for me when I first heard it. You know, for people who are mission-centric or meaning-centric in life, money can feel like an uncomfortable topic and have us uneasy and sometimes confused. And one of the metaphors that I learned actually in my business life was along the lines of money equating to oxygen, right? It's not the meaning of life, but it's necessary for life. Mm-hmm. And especially when we're having the pledge drive, I am cognizant of the fact that there is so much meaning and there is so much mission in this congregation. That is what we are fundamentally about. And at the same time, money is the oxygen of that, right? There are other forms of oxygen, our time and our intention and our commitment and so forth, but money is also an essential part. And now that I'm on the board, I am in more conversations with people like Rev Tim and Leah and other members of the staff and the board, and I see them working hard to figure out how to stretch that money so that it can serve our mission and our meaning most. And so I appeal to you to make their jobs a little bit easier. You know, please ensure that the oxygen tank is at the level that it needs to be when we come to work each day, when we prepare the budget for the year and figure out how best to, you know, expend our resources and bring about mission and meaning. You know, we were asked to speak on behalf of a young family. I don't know about if I'm young, but the rest of them are. But you know, some of the benefits we've experienced as being a part of UUCville really have been transformative to our lives. The people that Tori and I and our 3 children get to spend time with as a result of being part of this congregation, and the influence you all have on us, to see our kids head off with other adults and know that the influence will only be positive and very fundamental is beautiful. That happens through RE, and it happens through other contexts. You know, when we think about RE and Nora, our oldest, who's turning 15 soon, has been through OWL. I think Tori and I, when we went through the kind of the parents' orientation for OWL, we and other adults in the room that day said, if our sex ed had been only this 2 hours, it would have been better than what we got. I mean, OWL has been profoundly beneficial to Nora, and we're so thankful for that. Now she's part of the coming of age group, and she's going to be part of the Appalachian Service Project. These are the types of things that mainstream, if you want to call it, life here in this culture doesn't serve up. And so we're so thankful for that, and other things like neighboring faiths and other aspects of the RE program that our children experience over time. So we are so thankful. We think, you know, what for the $500,000, which is, you know, our pledge goal and approximately the budget for this church annual budget for this congregation, the amount of benefit each of us and our community gets is really profound. So I appeal to you, if you haven't pledged yet, please do. Help the board and the staff have enough oxygen to drive forward the mission and even expand and extend the mission each year over year. So thank you very much.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Chris and Tori. So that was really, really wonderful. And there's a lot of great mission and ministry in this congregation, and we do need the oxygen to keep doing the work of beloved community. Friends, we are an interconnected community that cares for one another, and part of how we embody this care is by making time to share the joys and sorrows we hold in our hearts. We hold the joys and sorrows that are unspoken but remain deep in our hearts, and I will now light this candle for those joys and sorrows.
This community offers its love and support to what is closest to our hearts. Another way we show our care for one another is in sharing our financial gifts with our community and our congregation. Our social action collection for the month of March is being taken for the Charlottesville Public Housing Association of Residents, or FAR. FAR was founded in 1998, and its mission is to educate and empower low-income residents and to protect and improve our communities through collective action. Rachel, will you please show us the social action slide for giving? Thank you. In addition to giving online, if you would like to give today with cash or check, please use the social action collection envelopes here in the sanctuary and place your offering in the collection plate. Please do not seal the envelopes as we reuse them. In addition to our social action collection, each week we invite everyone into the spiritual practice of generosity by giving to our ministry, to the ministry of our congregation. Through your pledges and with the weekly Sunday morning offering, together, our financial gifts and support build the future of our congregation. This is our shared ministry. During the music that follows, you may choose to make your Sunday morning offering by using the text address or going to our website. Here in the sanctuary, you may bring cash or checks forward. You are invited to share not only your financial gifts, but also share the joys and sorrows in your hearts. Those online may put them in the chat box, and those of you in the sanctuary may come forward to place a stone in the water. You may also leave us a note on the joy and sorrow paper provided here. And let us dedicate all of the many gifts we share with one another by saying, "We accept your gifts with gratitude. May we use them wisely for the highest good." Thank you, Scott. Our reading today is The Hidden Singer by Wendell Berry. The gods are less for their love of praise. Above and below them all is a spirit that needs nothing but its own wholeness, its health and ours. It has made all things by dividing itself. It will be whole again. To its joy we come together, the seer and the seen, the eater and the eaten, the lover and the loved. In our joining, it knows itself. It is with us then, not as the gods whose name crest in unearthly fire, but as a little bird hidden in the leaves who sings quietly and waits and sings.
Well, it's good to be delighted to see all of you this morning. Many thanks to Tori for helping out with today's service and for inspiring Chris. Testimonial, there we go. Yes. Tori, we appreciate, and Chris, Chris I guess headed out. We appreciate all that you and your wonderful family do here at UUCville, and your kindness and generosity are so much appreciated. So, a little background. This morning's service and sermon have been inspired by our own Edith Good. Edith, say hello. Last fall, I offered a sermon topic of your choice as part of our service auction. Edith was the highest bidder, and the topic she chose was the God I don't believe in. Now, my understanding from what Edith told me is that she had been invited to reflect on that topic by Reverend Linda, and that she found that exercise to be interesting and helpful. So Edith, let me say to you, thank you for giving me the same assignment. And I hope that after you hear what I have to say, that you won't feel compelled to go up to the committee and ask for your money back. Now, before I begin, let me acknowledge that preaching about the subject of God can be, how do I say this, tricky business in Unitarian Universalism. For those of you who are new to our faith, we are a religion without a creed, meaning we come together around a set of principles and values about how we live and journey together in the world, rather than a single belief or doctrine about God or ultimate reality. So here at the UU Congregation of Charlottesville, for example, we welcome and celebrate those who believe in God, gods, the goddess or goddesses, those who don't, and those who aren't sure and are still questioning and exploring. In that spirit of theological pluralism, let me say that what I'm about to share is not meant to be a definitive statement about who God is or even if God exists. I am not trying to convert you to a particular belief, and I'm certainly not going to suggest that what I'm about to say represents Unitarian Universalism or this congregation's doctrine about the divine. Unitarian Universalism doesn't have a single understanding or doctrine about God. If someone ever tells you that in order to be a UU, you have to believe this or that about God, or that as a UU, you can't believe in God because quite a few of us identify as humanist, agnostic, or atheist, let me just correct the record and simply say that in Unitarian Universalism, what you believe or don't believe about God or the gods is ultimately up to you. I will say that if there is one thing I think most UUs do agree on, it is that the nature and existence of God and ultimate reality are a mystery that leads us to welcome and celebrate many different ways of approaching and understanding ultimate reality. Okay, now that I've gotten the caveats and the qualifiers out of the way, let me begin at the beginning. When I was a young child, and I'm guessing this may be true for some or even many in this room, I was introduced to a particular way of understanding who God is and even what God looks like. I learned that God is male, that he is a father, that he is white, that he looks pretty old, and that he has a long white beard. And from growing up with movies like the Ten Commandments on television, I also learned that God, and I'm going to try this here, has a deep, stern-sounding voice, and that he speaks English, at least when he's talking to Charlton Heston. Now, in addition to being male, white, old, and an English speaker, I learned from the biblical story found in the book of Genesis that this God created the heavens and the earth and all living things in 6 days and then rested on the seventh. So before there was anything, there was God existing somewhere out there, somewhere that is above and beyond the earth and above and beyond you and me. Now, although the Bible doesn't provide us with pictures of what God looks like or where God lives, this hasn't stopped artists from using their imaginations to fill in the blanks. And of all the attempts to portray what God looks like, few are more famous than Michelangelo's depiction of the biblical creation story on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel in the Vatican. There it is. I don't know, have any of you ever seen this in person? It's quite spectacular. If you can get any elbow room, there's usually like 1 million people standing around you, but it is really something to see. Now, as you can see in this image, the traditional image of God I mentioned earlier is all here. God, on the right there, is male, white, looks old, and there's that infamous long white beard. Now, in this particular depiction, God, who resides in what looks like some kind of, I don't know, primordial shell along with a cohort of angels, has just created Adam along with the land, water, and sky. I'd like to take a few minutes now to zoom in on my favorite part of this painting, and I'm going to talk quite a bit about this morning. The place where the divine finger and the human finger almost come together. There it is. I'm always mesmerized by this part of the painting, and it appears to me, as I look at it, that God is perhaps just transmitted some kind of divine energy to create Adam and everything else. It's interesting to note that the biblical story actually uses the Hebrew word ruah to describe God's creative power, and ruah is oftentimes translated as wind or spirit or breath. In this case, the breath or spirit of God. Now, what I find especially interesting about Michelangelo's depiction of the divine and human fingers is that although they are so very close and almost touch, God and humanity remain separate, distinct, and apart. Of course, as the creation story tells us, and as I think Michelangelo is seeking to portray, God created humankind in his image. But God is and remains separate from us. To borrow a term from theology, God is radically transcendent, meaning that, and again, I'm just going to stick with these really gender-exclusive pronouns, meaning that he is all-powerful and all-knowing and will always be a separate being who exists distinct from and somewhere beyond humanity. Let me also say a word about what I learned growing up about this God's nature and character, or at least his nature as it was portrayed in the doctrines and dogmas of the religious traditions I grew up in. And that portrayal has some resemblance to the one Mary Livermore learned as a child, an image of God who is judging, watching, ready to scold or punish if one disobeys. Now, by now, I'm guessing you can tell by how that the idea of God as a distant male father who often gets angry and judges us, that's not the way I understand God. So, Edith, my answer to the question you posed is that the old white guy with the beard who is separate from humankind, that's not the God that works or makes sense to me. And much like Mary Livermore, I don't believe in a God who rules with fear rather than love, punishment rather than compassion. I just don't, I'm like Mary Livermore, I guess. That's not what my heart is telling me about who God is or isn't. Now, before I tell you about the God who does make sense to me, I want to make clear that if you believe in, find truth in a transcendent God, or even in an old dude with a long white beard, I'm not here to tell you you're wrong or misguided. Again, as I said before, in Unitarian Universalism, God's existence in nature is ultimately a mystery. And when it comes to describing who God is, or even if God exists, my final answer must always be God only knows. So let me spend the rest of my time this morning sharing with you a different understanding of the divine, an understanding that sees God close up, not far away, and that conceives of God as a spirit of love and compassion that exists in us, among us, and especially between us. A spirit whose ultimate purpose is, as that wonderful poem from Wendell Berry says so beautifully, is to draw human beings together. A spirit that is exuberant and joyful when human beings love one another. And a spirit that exists not as some old guy sitting in judgment over and above us, but much more resembling a gentle little bird. And there's the bird chirping right there. What timing? A little bird hidden in the leaves, singing to us a song of love and peace. And one of the depictions that I want to share with you is actually the one I just showed you, the painting of Michelangelo's image of God and Adam on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. Take a look again at that close-up of the divine and the human finger. But rather than seeing one finger as human and the other as divine, imagine, how does it change the equation if we imagine that both fingers are human and that God is the loving energy that is drawing them towards one another? God in this view is not a being that is above and beyond us, but rather God is the loving connections and relationships that bring meaning and hope to our lives. That is the God I have come to know and experience in my life. One of my favorite religious thinkers is the Jewish philosopher Martin Buber. There he is. Buber is best known for articulating a vision of life as ultimately being about mutuality and dialogue, meaning that human beings are most authentically themselves when they are genuinely relating to and connecting with one another. Too often, Buber says, we don't take the time to truly see and understand the humanity of another. Instead, we treat them more as an object or an it, rather than as a fellow human being, or a thou, as Buber liked to put it. The key to living a happy and joyful life, according to Martin Buber, is to create relationships of true mutuality in which we love and accept one another for who we are, while at the same time growing together through a continuous dialogue, learning, and conversation. And it is this view It is from this view of life as relationship and mutuality that Buber's understanding and definition of God emerges. Rather than seeing God as a distant being who resides over and above us in judgment, Buber views God as the force that makes relationships of mutuality possible. Now I'm going to share with you now Buber's one-sentence definition of God. I love it. I may read it 5 times. It is just so wonderful. This is what Buber says. Buber says, when two people relate to each other authentically and humanly, God is the electricity that surges between them. God is the electricity that surges between human beings when they relate to one another authentically and humanly. I have to tell you, I can't think of a better way to describe my experiences of the divine, experiences in which I have felt a presence, a force, an electricity that I have come to call God. It is as if there is a current of love and kindness, awe and wonder that I can feel in those moments when my life and my heart join the hearts and lives of others. Those moments have come at times of joy and exaltation, in moments of brokenness and sorrow. They have come when I have been involved in something big and important, and in moments that I can only describe as ordinary and everyday. But what each of those experiences has in common is a connection that is so close and so intimate that it's almost as if in that moment, the rhythm of my life has joined the rhythm of all creation. So let me close by sharing with you one of those moments, one of those experiences of mutuality and deep connection. But before I do, I want to acknowledge how important another kind of experience has been for me, and I know for many of you. Moments of awe and wonder inspired by the beauty and majesty of nature and the natural world. I know I have been blessed with so many wonderful moments of indescribable beauty and peace in the presence of a sunset, a star-filled night sky, a vast and seemingly endless ocean, and so much more. Those experiences always leave me feeling so connected to the world around me and to the universe. In those moments, all my concerns and conceits, they just fade into the distance, and I am called back to the simple truth that I am a small part of a vast and awe-inspiring universe whose size and beauty take my breath away. A universe that, as one of our kids said, I'll never fully comprehend, but that I will always be able to call home. Now, the story I want to close with this morning begins with pain and brokenness and involves one of the hardest periods in my life. It took place about 20 years ago and involves my late mother, whose name was Mary. Now, because Mom lived alone and was getting older, she decided to move closer to Carol and I and our 2 kids. Sadly, it wasn't long after she moved that her health began to decline. She struggled with a variety of physical illnesses, and as her physical illnesses worsened, my mom's lifelong struggle with depression grew more and more serious. She seemed depressed all the time. Many days didn't get out of bed, wouldn't go to therapy, relied on medications that she often refused to take. As her depression deepened, she simply seemed to give up on life. Now, my mom's depression took a terrible toll on my family. I remember how frustrated, angry, confused we were as her emotional state worsened. We tried so hard to cheer her up, to get her to reconnect with life. There was nothing we could say or do that seemed to help. The worse things got, the more Carol and I felt helpless and alone. Of course, we had each other, but we were both in so much distress and pain that the darkness seemed like it would never, never end. And when we were at our lowest point, that's when a remarkable group of friends at the Unitarian Universalist congregation we were members of helped us find our way out of the darkness and despair. Those friends were part of our covenant group. I know many of you were in covenant groups here in our congregation. And I will never forget what happened at one of our meetings. During the check-in time, when members catch the group up on what's happening in their life and what's new, I'm not really sure why, but I decided to share just how painful things had gotten with my mom. I remember as I was speaking, my voice was shaking and I was feeling nervous and vulnerable because I wasn't sure how our friends would react. I wasn't sure if I was breaking the covenant, if I was going beyond what you're supposed to share in a check-in. Well, let me simply say that our friends didn't offer any comments, suggestions, or advice. They simply got up from their seats, held us, and cried with us. There was no judgment, only love and compassion. And in that incredible moment, my faith in life was restored, and I began to find a path out of the darkness. I just knew that we weren't alone, and that I was blessed to live in a world in which love is real and more powerful than all the pain and brokenness that I was experiencing. For that blessed moment, I was truly on sacred ground. And as I was being held and embraced by our friends, I felt a presence that was, I can only say, electric. I have come to call that presence God, and I believe with all my heart that when people come together to love and care for one another, God is most assuredly in that place. Not the old white dude with the long white beard, not the God who's keeping track of how many ways you need to be punished or judged. No, the God I welcome into my life is a loving and healing energy that is always calling me to extend a hand of friendship and love to others and to receive that hand when it is offered to me. And I have also come to believe that experiences like the one that I had that night point to something basic and timeless about the meaning and purpose of our lives. I believe that we are put on this earth to love one another, to care for one another, to help one another. That's why God comes alive in moments like the one I described. When we are giving and receiving love, we are living in harmony with the universe, again, that we will never fully understand, but that is always, always calling us to reach out, calling us to care, calling us to be that presence of love and compassion that stirs in every human heart and that offers us light in the midst of darkness. That's the God I believe in, the God who has blessed my life with love and compassion and hope. Edith, thank you for this assignment. I really appreciate it. You were my inspiration, and thank you all so very much for listening this morning. So for our closing hymn this morning, we're going to actually enjoy another video. This is a lovely closing hymn called Here Together Going Forth. I think Scott's probably going to play along. And so would you please rise? It's not in the hymnal. Don't look for it. The words will be on the screen. Now, I want to invite you all, if you are willing, to join hands with your neighbor. If you don't want to because of germ concerns, maybe just put your hand on the shoulder or arm of your neighbor. Or hug your neighbor, that's okay too. Well done, Elaine and Gloria. I love these closing words from my colleague Erica Hewitt. The hand in yours belongs to a person whose heart is sometimes tender, whose skin is sometimes thin, whose eyes sometimes fill with tears, and whose laughter is a beautiful, beautiful sound. As you leave this sanctuary, may your hearts remain open, may your voices stay strong, and may your hands remain outstretched. Friends, be well. Take very good care of yourselves, of each other, and of the world. May joy follow you this day and every day. Amen, and go in peace. Oh, I forgot to ask you to do the chalice, that's right.